What was the biggest challenge in onboarding so many vendors through this program at Amazon?
There was two sets. First, the platform has to be self. The people have to do the job themselves, basically, to self onboard, but self also generate their label and self create their shipment. Therefore, to really have a platform where the people could manage everything by themselves without having to interact with people at Amazon. System, yes, but not people. That was one of the challenge, but which have been pretty well designed from the beginning, there was not much. The challenge which remain today, and has always been and remain, and it goes up and down, is the fact that the accuracy of the people to do the right job of sending product which have label, because you have to label your product when you send to Amazon with the right label, and rightly doing so, basically. Put the label first, but also put the right label. Therefore, there is a more, if you order from a 1P vendor, any supplier or vendors, there's usually a high level of accuracy of what you're going to receive. The barcode match the product, usually, because they are manufactured by them more frequently, and so on. In the case of FBA, unfortunately, that most likely that there is mismatch being done, there are some product missing. Therefore, all these points are the one, and not intentionally, just because the people are not used to, or it's an additional step for them. Therefore, one of the big challenge which we've seen at the beginning, but still now, and now in different level, but it's still because the number of vendor in FBA is still growing. Therefore, we cannot say, it's not like we've been dealing with this vendor for now 10 years. I mean, some, yes, and obviously those ones have been over time very good and performing well, but every day, every week, there are more vendors coming, which they have their learning curve to adapt to that. Therefore, it's still a higher level of inaccuracy from the FBA vendor, which is still a challenge for the fulfillment center, basically.
Hmm. And do you think there's any other real operational limitations that would prevent Amazon from scaling FBA apart from this sortation or misplacing challenge?
No, after that, the only challenge is the capacity, obviously, and because when it was, the idea of FBA was to utilize some of the empty capacity in space, but also capacity in throughput of our own logistic to optimize it, particularly off peak when the rest of the year. And when that was very small, there was always, a kind of always enough capacity for that because it was small. As it grow pretty much, obviously the capacity now has to be very managed and accounted for. Therefore, one of the remaining challenge of Amazon is scaling rightly his network to make sure that they have they have enough space for those FBA vendors, because also what is important is there is no limitation kind of with an FBA vendor. You can, when you subscribe, you say, of course, what kind of business you're gonna do, but there is no commitment or limitation necessarily, which Amazon sometimes had to put some limitation over time because the FBA were bigger and the one which were really shifting considerably some volume, and beyond, above and beyond what was Amazon was expected. There was some discussion. Therefore, the one remaining challenge to scale is to make sure that they have always the capacity for the FBA vendor. And the reason why you've seen as well the policy of inventory, or even the rates, of all because you pay for the inventory you have in the warehouse, and the rates have changed by time. Therefore, if you leave the inventory too long, the rate increase quite significantly because Amazon has to manage that. Amazon could adjust stock indefinitely, basically. That's what I believe is one of the remaining challenge, but it doesn't prevent Amazon to grow this business. It just require a little bit more attention of how to project and scale it properly, because now we don't do that. When we really started, we were doing that on the back of our plan of 1P, and it was okay, that's gonna be a few percent on top, it's fine. Now you cannot just do that. I mean, if you don't plan for the growth of FBA, you won't have the space because FBA is quite large.
Hmm. how would you approach that from a network perspective then? I mean, obviously, like you said, you can change the pricing of the inventory in the warehouse to move it quicker, but would you look at adding different fulfillment centers or warehouses, or specifically for other, non-Amazon customers to increase the capacity? How would you approach that
Right,
challenge?
exactly. That's exactly the different way that Amazon approach it. First, obviously, now there is a proper planning for FBA inventory, which is being done by the FBA team, which are trying to gather what they do. Basically, they work half with large FBA vendors, which are pretty significant amount with us, where we can have a real process, planning process, where we ask them, what do you plan, what do you forecast to be, and after, they are also working statistically with onboarding and seeing that what kind of size of vendors and what they expect on board. And they are doing basically a planning. And FBA is like any product line in the company. FBA has its own planning where he's coming back to the fulfillment, the operation at Amazon and telling them and booking kind of some space already in advance based on their need, and the planning of the expansion of the network now is done including those numbers. And yes, today there are, I'm sure in Europe or in the US for sure, there are many warehouses that if you are looking, they are only for FBA. If you are taking the space taken by FBA in each of the country even, or in the US or in Europe, and you are dividing as a percentage and number of sites, you will discover there is many sites which are entirely FBA basically, or have been built only for FBA need.